After 48 hours of watching the Republican Party scramble and flail on the issue of IVF treatments following the Alabama Supreme Court ruling, the disgraced ex-president in the last hour coming out in support of IVF treatments and calling on lawmakers to find an immediate solution. Now, we should point out Donald Trump, as the Biden White House and Democrats have been reminding us, is why we are here in the first place. The Alabama decision was a direct result of overturning Roe versus Wade, something Trump continues to take credit for. But today, while we wait for any change to come in Alabama, current IVF patients are left with very few options. They are being told that they cannot even move their own frozen embryos out of the state, after several large providers have paused all embryo shipping to and from Alabama due to liability concerns. It is something our next guest is doing, moving her frozen embryos out of Texas, which she fears could be next, where she's already fighting the near total abortion ban that almost killed her. Joining us now, Amanda Zurawski, a plaintiff in the Texas abortion ban lawsuit. Also with us, Washington Post opinion editor and MSNBC contributor Alexi McCammond. Amanda, you decided to move your embryos fearing what could happen in Texas. What does it mean for IVF patients in Alabama who don't even have that option?
Oh my gosh, my heart is broken into a million pieces for those IVF patients in Alabama. It's really terrifying. We're seeing the largest hospital in the state. Several IVF clinics have already shut down operations for fear that they'll be prosecuted if something goes wrong in this very delicate process. And I've even seen, women's cycles have been canceled mid-cycle. Their transfers have been canceled. Now there are people that can't get their embryos out of Alabama. I mean, it's truly terrifying. And I think what scares me the most is that this is going to have a domino effect. We're going to see other states follow suit because they have the ability to make these draconian laws because of the fall of Roe v. Wade, something that Donald Trump is still bragging about.
It is horrific, Alexi, especially when you consider that very often families arrive at fertility treatments because they have already had a complicated and long journey. This is politically absolutely unpopular, clearly concerning enough for Donald Trump to say something. The New York Times reporting the National Republican Senatorial Committee is telling its candidates to, quote, clearly and concisely reject efforts by the government to restrict IVF. They know this is unpopular.
I mean, it's unpopular and it's insane, frankly.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yes, to put it bluntly.
For an Alabama judge to say this, to bring religion into it. Can you imagine if the judge were Muslim? Everyone would be screaming, crying about Sharia law, and this would be shut down in 2.2 seconds. Mm-hmm. But instead, somehow this man is using God to justify his reasoning for controlling women's bodies, women and men's ability to literally start a family, to decide the economics behind all of this. As you know, IVF is very expensive. Every single round you go through costs more money. There's an emotional toll that comes with this. Very, very interesting to see Donald Trump try to come out against this publicly as he's tried to navigate the abortion politics on the trail so far when, as you mentioned earlier, and we saw, he is the reason for all of this and the catalyst for what we have seen happening, not just IVF, mifepristone as well.
Well, and that it gets me to this point, Amanda, which is, I don't know if you saw the sound of Senator Tommy Tuberville being asked about IVF, and it was very clear he didn't fully understand the implications of all of this. And it is maddening that there are people in positions of power to make decisions about your and my body, your and my fertility, who don't understand, don't want to understand what it is that they're actually doing to us and to our families. Here's the thing, though. Despite all of those consequences, you don't have Republicans stopping. They're prepared to support federal abortion restrictions. I want you to talk about your own fight in Texas, where you think this could be headed if it's not stopped.
It's a really good question and a really good point. I think it's really scary. And I think what I have learned from our case here in Texas and what we learned through Kate Cox's case, also represented by the Center for Reproductive Rights, is that lawmakers don't care about women and pregnant people and us having the ability to make choices for our own reproductive health care. And quite frankly, as long as we don't do something to reverse these, there's nothing that's going to stop this from becoming a national problem. Right now, people think it's isolated to Alabama. It absolutely is not. And the only way we prevent this from becoming a national issue is by keeping Donald Trump out of office.
I want to be clear, Alexi, which is I say they didn't understand what they were doing. If Mini Tamaraju or any number of other reproductive healthcare rights advocates were here, they would say they knew exactly what they were doing, or at least the advocates who were pushing them behind the scenes knew what they were doing. The collision point you are seeing here is on the politics of it. If you are Democrats, the contrast is clear. This is actually not a hard contrast to draw. How do you, though, make sure that this issue stays front and center?
Yes, well, and to your point, there are men publicly making this decision, but women, as we know, are privately in this anti-abortion space, and they're the ones really planning out exactly how to go after all of this reproductive care access. But Democrats, as you pointed out earlier, President Biden's reelection campaign is pointing out Donald Trump is the reason we are here. Don't forget that he bragged about wanting to overturn Roe, and he has gotten what he needs. Surveys, although they show a close race between Biden and Trump in a hypothetical general election matchup, abortion and abortion rights is one of the very few issues, along with democracy, that Biden and Democrats consistently beat Trump and Republicans on. Voters know that they can trust Democrats and the left. Independents know they can trust Democrats and the left when protecting their health care rights. It's not just about abortion, yes or no. It's about, do you have your own autonomy to make economic decisions, healthcare decisions, decisions to start a family? And as you know well, this affects women, men, scientists, healthcare providers, everyone across the board. And Republicans have seen 6 states since Dobbs was overturned have passed constitutional amendments to protect abortion rights in their state constitutions. There are as many as 13 states that will be voting on it in 2024. This is something that people are begging to keep protected, and Republicans in states like Alabama are saying, oh, no, thanks. We'll do what we want.
Amanda, Alexi makes a great point, which is it is about the patients. It is also about the healthcare providers. One of the concerns, of course, is that you will have providers leave some of these states because they're not able to offer the service that they got into medicine in order to be able to offer, which then changes the map, not just for people in Alabama, not just for people in the American South. It changes care across the board. What do you say to Republicans, to extremist activists who think that they are better authorities on these issues than people like you who are directly impacted?
I mean, it's just preposterous. Unless you are a medical doctor and you have gone to school to study this, you don't know better. And you're exactly right. We are seeing healthcare professionals, especially in Texas and similar states, leaving the state in hordes, and we're left with healthcare deserts. And it's a real problem, and it goes even further than that. Think about the students who want to become doctors, right? And if they're considering where they're going to go to medical school, I would not go to a state like Texas where abortion is banned because they're going to get an incomplete education. And it's a problem that has so many layers, and I think people aren't thinking about it. And that's why we have to absolutely keep talking about it, keep the spotlight on this issue, because it is critical and it's just going to get worse.